In the village of Bhimtal, hidden between cold mountains and quiet lakes, people whisper a line that feels like a curse passed from mother to daughter. The person who destroys you is never the stranger outside your door. It's always the one living inside your home. I used to think it was just an old saying until 3 evenings ago at exactly 6:12 p.m. my cousin sister Aarohi stumbled into my courtyard, her dupatta soaked with blood, her left eye swollen like someone had slammed a fist into it, her lips trembling like she had forgotten how to speak. She didn't say, "Neha, I'm hurt." She didn't say, "Please help me." She whispered only 5 words that ripped my soul apart. "Neha, I think I'll die." My hands froze. My voice died in my throat. Because Aarohi wasn't just any woman, she was the softest, kindest heart of our family. The girl who fed stray dogs, the teacher who stayed after class to help children who couldn't read, the woman who stitched her mother-in-law's blouses at midnight without a complaint. And yet, she stood in front of me that evening, looking like life had been beaten out of her. Her sari torn, her arms covered with purple fingerprints, her breathing shallow, like she was scared that even air would punish her. Inside me, something snapped. Not broke, snapped. My name is Neha Sharma, 28 years old. I work at the Bhimtal town office, and until that evening, I believed justice always came through official channels. But what I saw in Aarohi's eyes that day wasn't fear. It was surrender. A woman who had accepted she might never leave her husband's house alive. And in that moment, I made a promise to myself. In 3 days, I will end the hell she has lived for 3 years. Even if I have to burn every rule written in this country. Before I tell you what happened, if you are listening right now, comment the name of your village. I want to know how far this truth travels. Because what happened next might save another woman's life. Before I take you into the nightmare that followed, you need to understand who I am and who Aarohi was before life pressed her into dust. My name is Neha Sharma, 28 years old, born and raised in Bhimtal. People in the town office call me the girl who can fix anything with paperwork. Land disputes, pension problems, ration card mess-ups, you name it. I'm not powerful, not rich, not even loud. But I know systems. I know how they work. And I know how to make them work for the right person. Aarohi, on the other hand, she was the kind of woman this world doesn't deserve. She smiled at strangers. She touched elders' feet without hesitation. She taught children in the village school the kind of teacher who wiped tears, tied braids, and told her students they were born brilliant. If light had a form, it would look like her. When she married Raghav Thakur, the entire village clapped. Aarohi has found a gentleman, they said. A man from a good family, government job in pharmaceuticals. She is lucky. Lucky. That word feels like poison now. In the beginning, Raghav looked perfect. He brought flowers. He laughed at every small joke. He held Aarohi's hand like she was fragile glass. But monsters don't show their teeth on day one. They wait. They watch. They soften your walls before they break your bones. The cracks started small. First, he told Aarohi to stay home more because people talk too much. Then he said her blouses were too loose or too bright or too modern. He didn't like her school job, said it paid too little, and exposed her to too many men. Slowly, piece by piece, he separated her from everything she loved. Her school, her friends, us, her family, and his mother, Kamala Thakur, was worse. A woman whose tongue was sharper than temple bells. Every day she reminded Aarohi that she brought too little dowry, that she ate too much, that she worked too slowly. Pooja, the younger sister in law, played her own part, a snake with pretty makeup, dropping taunts like poisoned sugar. Bhabhi, you're too soft. Bhabhi, even servants cook better. Bhabhi, you don't look like someone Bhaiya should have married. Aarohi, in her foolish kindness, thought, if I love them more, maybe they will love me back. But some families don't want Bahu. They want punching bags. I watched the light inside Aarohi dim year after year. But I told myself, marriage changes people, motherhood changes people. She's just busy. That lie still burns my throat. Because 3 days ago, when she walked into my home covered in bruises, I realized I hadn't lost my sister recently. I had been losing her slowly for 3 years, inch by inch, pain by pain. And the world watched. And I watched, and no one stopped it. Not until that evening. If I had known what Aarohi was hiding, if I had known even 1% of what she was surviving, I would have dragged her out of that house long ago. But pain has a way of teaching women silence. That night, after I cleaned her wounds and wrapped her in my mother's old shawl, she finally spoke. Not like someone telling a story, but like someone coughing out poisoned air. Neha, it didn't start like this. Of course it never does. The first time he hit me, she whispered, it wasn't even because of me. And then the gates opened. It was a Thursday. A small argument between Raghav and his mother had turned into shouting. Aarohi tried to calm him, tried to keep the neighbors from hearing, but Raghav spun around and slapped her so hard she fell against the steel almirah. He said it was a mistake, Aarohi whispered. He touched my feet afterward, he cried. He promised he'd never do it again. I clenched my jaw. Every woman in India has heard that promise somewhere. Then came the rules. Rule 1. No phone calls to her mother unless Raghav was in the room. Rule 2. No visiting neighbors. Rule 3. No going to school without his permission. Rule 4. No spending money without approval. Rule 5. No talking back, ever. And with every rule, his mother Kamla added her own poison. Bahu should know her place. Bahu should serve her husband. Bahu should not speak too much. Bahu should not have opinions. But the real horror started after Pooja moved back home. She would pick fights over nothing, Aarohi said. She'd dirty the kitchen after I cleaned it, then tell Raghav I was useless. She'd take my bangles and claim I gave them to her. She'd call me maid in front of guests. Her voice shook. Neha. One night she pushed me near the stove while oil was heating. I fell, my arm. I saw the burn mark later. A long, angry scar running down her forearm like a permanent reminder. But nothing prepared me for what came next. Aarohi looked at me with eyes that had cried beyond their limit. Neha, he doesn't just hit me. My blood froze. He chokes me. He locks me in the bathroom for hours. He takes my phone and deletes numbers. He hides my medicines. He threatens to throw me out at midnight. He says he'll tell the village I am mad and no one will believe me. Her voice cracked. And last night he raised his hand at Pari, her daughter, 6 years old, a child who still slept with a teddy bear. He shouted because she cried when the lights went out. He slapped her. Neha, so hard she fell. My breath stopped. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't a marriage. This wasn't a home. This was a war zone, and Aarohi had been fighting alone for 3 years. Not anymore, because sitting in front of me wasn't just my sister. It was a woman who had reached the edge of life itself. And I felt something inside me ignite like fire touching kerosene. It wasn't sympathy. It wasn't pity. It was war. Aarohi's voice was trembling, mine was silent. But inside me, a storm was rising, violent, loud, unstoppable. For 3 years, Raghav had treated her like a prisoner. For 3 years, Kamala and Pooja had sharpened their cruelty on her skin. For 3 years, a child had slept with fear instead of lullabies. And that night, for the first time, Aarohi said the words she had swallowed 1,000 times. Neha, I think he will kill me soon. There are moments in life when the world stops. For some, it's the birth of a child. For others, it's falling in love. For me, it was that sentence. I grabbed her hands, cold as winter water. You're not going back there tonight, I said. She shook her head immediately, panic flooding her eyes. No, Neha. He'll come looking. He'll find me. And Pari. Pari is safe. She's at Masi's house tonight, I assured her. I sent someone to pick her up before you arrived. Aarohi stared at me, shocked, like she couldn't believe someone had made a plan for her. After years of living in a house where everyone made plans against her. But she still whispered, he will destroy everything if he finds out I came here. I leaned forward. Aarohi, listen to me carefully. I'm not sending you back. Not in this state. Not ever again. Then she said something that sliced my heart open. Neha, I tried to leave once. I ran to the temple, but Pooja followed me on her scooty. She dragged me home by my hair in front of people. No one helped. No one said anything. And Raghav punished me for 3 days. I closed my eyes. There it was. The truth of our society. A woman can scream for help in public, and the crowd will watch like it's entertainment. My life is ruined, Aarohi whispered. His family hates me. My own daughter sees me as weak. No one will believe me. No one will save me. That's when I realized something. She didn't come to me for justice. She came because she had reached the final edge of her courage. She came because she was drowning and needed a hand to hold. So I asked her the one question no one had asked her in 3 years. Aarohi, what do you want? Her lips trembled. I just want to live. I want my daughter to grow up safe. I want to breathe without fear, but I don't know how to leave. He always finds me. Those words, those helpless, fragile words, they lit something in me. Not anger, purpose. I took a slow breath. Then give me 3 days, I said. Just 3 days. And I promise you, Aarohi, you will never go back to that house again. She stared at me like I was speaking a language she had forgotten existed. Neha, what are you going to do? I smiled. Not a soft smile. Not a comforting one. It was the kind of smile a soldier gives before stepping onto the battlefield. I'm going into that house, I said. And I'm not going as Neha. Her breath caught. Then, as who? As you. Silence. Heavy. Shocking. Aarohi blinked. You're going to pretend to be me? I nodded. You and I looked the same. Same face. Same voice. Same walk. No one will know. Neha, this is mad. Raghav is dangerous. And I'm not afraid of him. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment war began. The next evening at 6:04 p.m., I stood outside Aarohi's house, her personal hell, her prison, the place where every bruise on her body had been born. It looked peaceful from the outside. Bougainvillea on the gate, fresh rangoli on the doorstep, a brass bell hanging above the door frame. A stranger would think, such a happy, cultured family. But women like Aarohi know the truth. Sometimes the prettiest houses hide the darkest rooms. I held her keys tightly. My palms were sweating. Not because I was afraid, but because I had only one chance to pull this off. I adjusted the pallu like Aarohi would, lowered my voice like hers, softened my steps, shrunk my shoulders. The transformation was complete. I was no longer Neha. I was Aarohi. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Immediately, two voices cut through the air like knives. Kamla loud, sharp, dripping venom. Pooja sugar-coated poison, always pretending to be sweet. Kahanti tum, Aarohi, Kamala barked. Do you know Raghav will be home any minute? I kept my eyes low, my voice small. Sorry, Maji, the market was crowded. Excuses, she snapped. Go cook and don't ruin the dal again. I nodded, pretending to obey. But my mind was already scanning everything: exits, angles, hiding spots, cameras. I had placed one tiny camera earlier that afternoon, disguised inside Aarohi's old flower vase outside the window. Another inside a pen clipped to my dupatta. Everything from this moment onward was being recorded. Every insult, every threat, every slap they thought they could deliver. Pooja entered the kitchen like she owned the place. Her eyes ran up and down my face, suspicious. You look different today, she said slowly. I smiled like Aarohi used to, small, scared, apologetic. I'm just tired, I whispered. She shrugged, grabbed a packet of chips, and left. But I could feel her watching me from the doorway. Good. Let her wonder. Fear grows best when watered with confusion. At 8:17 p.m., I heard the scooter outside. Raghav was home. The house shifted. Air tightened. Even walls seemed to hold their breath. Kamla stood up. Pooja straightened her hair. Both of them ran into the hall like devoted servants, waiting for their king. The door slammed. Heavy footsteps. Belt jingling. Keys thrown on the table. Where's my dinner? Raghav roared. Aarohi would have flinched. Aarohi would have run to serve him. I didn't. I walked out slowly, plate in hand, keeping my face calm, my eyes lowered but not afraid. He noticed. His eyebrows tightened. Something in him sensed something was off, but he didn't know what. What took you so long? He shouted, stepping closer. This was it. The first test. The first moment Aarohi had been waiting for 3 years. I lifted my head and looked him in the eye, something Aarohi had never done. For 1 second, one brief but powerful second, Raghav froze. He saw something unfamiliar in Aarohi's eyes. Strength, defiance, fire. The storm had entered his house, and the monster finally felt fear. The silence after that moment was not normal. It was the kind of silence that comes before a monsoon storm. Heavy, thick, warning everyone to run for shelter. Raghav tried to shake it off. You're acting smart nowadays, huh? He said, stepping dangerously close. Too close? This was the distance where Aarohi usually broke. Where she apologized, where she trembled, where she begged. I didn't. I was busy, I replied softly. His eyes narrowed. That one simple sentence had challenged his whole universe. Raghav Thakur wasn't used to a woman responding. He was used to obedience, silence, and fear lined up like offerings at a temple. You think you can talk to me like this? He growled. Kamla chimed in instantly. Raghav Beta, don't take her words seriously. You know how useless she is. I turned my head slowly and looked at Kamala. Not Aarohi's fearful glance, but Neha's stare. Cold, sharp, warning her to stay in her lane. Kamala flinched. Good. Raghav noticed that too. Lift your pallu properly, he barked. You look like a shameless woman. I didn't move. Raghav, dinner is getting cold, I said instead. Pooja coughed from the corner, shocked. Kamla's lips parted. Raghav blinked, stunned. Aarohi had never ever spoken a sentence like that. And now he had a choice. Hit me or rethink everything he thought he knew. He chose violence. He always did. His hand lifted fast, practiced, familiar with the path it had travelled across Aarohi's face 100 times. But this time, the hand didn't land. Because I caught his wrist mid-air, firm, unmoving, like iron. Raghav froze. His brain couldn't process what had just happened. Aarohi wasn't supposed to react. Aarohi wasn't supposed to resist. Aarohi definitely wasn't supposed to catch his hand. What? What are you doing? He stuttered. I leaned in slightly. Enough, Raghav. One word, one sentence, but it sliced through his dominance like a knife through paper. Pooja gasped. Kamla covered her mouth. He jerked his arm, trying to pull free. Couldn't. My grip tightened. Not enough to hurt him, but enough to make him understand something he had never understood before. Aarohi was no longer the weaker one in the room. Raghav's face twisted. Insolent woman, he shouted. He used his other hand to shove me. Big mistake. I shifted my weight and let his force pass me a simple move taught in every self-defense class. He stumbled. Raghav Thakur, the man who terrorized a woman for 3 years, stumbled like a drunk child. His ego shattered before his body even hit the floor. And I said it again. Slower, clearer, deadly calm. I said, enough. The house was silent. Kamla looked terrified. Pooja looked confused. Raghav looked like his entire universe had collapsed. Good. It was time he tasted what fear felt like. Fear is a strange creature. For years, it had lived in Aarohi's chest, coiled like a snake, whispering that she was powerless, that she would die in this house. But that night, for the first time ever, fear changed sides. It moved from Aarohi's heart into Raghav's eyes. Kamala was the first to break the silence. Have you lost your mind, Aarohi? She shrieked. You dare raise your hand on my son? I didn't even look at her. Raghav raised his hand. I said calmly. I only stopped him. Pooja's jaw dropped. Kamala almost choked. Raghav, still on the floor, scrambled up, face red with humiliation. You dare touch me? He growled. I stepped forward, slow and steady. For 3 years, Aarohi had stepped back. Tonight, I stepped forward. Don't, I said softly. But the softness was deadlier than any shout. Raghav paused. He wasn't used to this version of his wife. He wasn't used to pause. You think you're strong now, huh? He spat. You think you can challenge me? I'm not challenging you, I replied. I'm warning you. Kamla gasped. Pooja whispered, what's happening to her? But they weren't talking about Aarohi. They were talking about me. Neha. The storm they didn't know had entered the house. Raghav turned to Kamala. See how she talks? This is all because you never controlled her properly. Kamala's face twisted. Don't blame me. This useless girl has always been trouble. I laughed. A cold, sharp laugh that sliced the room. All 3 of them froze. Trouble? I repeated. You haven't seen trouble yet. Raghav stepped forward again. Stop acting. Apologize. Right now. Aarohi would have apologized. I didn't. No, I said simply. The word hit him harder than any slap. His lips curled in rage. I swear to God, Aarohi, I'll... Before he could finish, I stepped close enough that he had to step back. For 3 years, I whispered, you hurt her because she was soft. You hurt her because she didn't fight back. You hurt her because you mistook her kindness for weakness. I leaned in. Your mistake. Raghav swallowed. He actually swallowed. That was when I knew. The fear had officially changed owners. It belonged to him now. But this wasn't enough. This was just the beginning. Dinner is on the table, I said, turning away. Eat before it gets cold. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command. A command he obeyed. Kamala stared at him. Pooja stared at him. And I saw it. A crack in their kingdom. A fracture in the power they thought they owned. Tonight, I had won the first battle. But the war was far from over. The next morning arrived with a tension you could slice with a knife. The sun rose gently over Bhimtal, but inside that house, the air felt like it was holding its breath. Raghav didn't go to work. Kamala didn't touch her morning tea. Pooja didn't scroll through her phone like usual. All three of them sat in the living room like a jury waiting to decide my fate. Except they didn't know. I was the judge now. I walked downstairs slowly, deliberately, as Aarohi would, but with Neha's fire simmering underneath. Kamala's eyes tracked my every step. So, she said sharply, you think you've grown wings after last night? I didn't respond. Silence was more powerful. Pooja leaned forward, fake sweetness dripping from her voice. Bhabhi, you should apologize to Bhaiya. He didn't sleep all night. I slept fine, I said. 3 jaws dropped. Raghav clenched his fists. You embarrassed me, he hissed. In front of my own family. I tilted my head slightly. And what about the last 3 years, Raghav? Who did I embarrass then? His face darkened. Kamala slammed her hand on the table. You will not speak to my son like that. I just did, I replied calmly. Pooja gasped. Kamala sputtered. Raghav stood up abruptly. This was the moment they had prepared for. An attack, a trap, a blow. He approached me slowly, like a predator rehearsing his kill. You want to act brave? He whispered. Let's see how brave you are alone. He grabbed my arm, hard, exactly how he had grabbed Aarohi 1,000 times. But today was different. Today, the prey knew how to bite back. I didn't resist, not yet. I let him grip tighter, watching, analyzing, waiting for the perfect moment. Behind him, Pooja smirked, thinking victory was near. Kamala nodded approvingly, thinking their control was returning. They were wrong. I lifted my eyes and met Raghav's stare. Before you touch me again, I said softly, look at the vase near the window. Raghav frowned. Then he looked, and for the first time, he saw the tiny blinking red light. The hidden camera. His hand loosened instantly. What? What is that? He stammered. Proof, I said. 3 years' worth. Kamala shot up from the sofa. You recorded us? Everything. Pooja's face went pale. Raghav stepped back, fear beginning to claw at his chest. You can't use that. I can, I replied. And I will. The balance of power finally tipped. You have 2 options, I continued. Sit down quietly or make this worse for yourself. Raghav looked at Kamala. Kamala looked at Pooja. Pooja looked back at him. And for the first time in 3 years, they sat down not because they respected me, but because they feared me, which, in this house, was the only language they understood. The house was quiet, not peaceful, but tense, like a bowstring pulled too far. Raghav, Kamala, and Pooja sat stiffly, faces pale, eyes darting between each other, trying to decide their next move. For the first time, they looked less like a family and more like criminals caught in their own trap. I sat across from them, not Aarohi, not the victim, Neha, the storm wearing Aarohi's face. Raghav finally broke the silence. What do you want? He asked, voice trembling beneath fake anger. I leaned back. That depends, I said. Are you ready to tell the truth? Pooja scoffed. Huh, what truth? You think you're smart? I looked directly at her. You pushed her near the stove. Her smirk vanished. You burned her arm. She swallowed. Raghav turned sharply toward her. Is that true? Pooja stuttered. No, I mean she fell. I interrupted calmly. It's on video. Kamala gasped. You recorded that too? Everything, I said again. Raghav's fist tightened. You think you can ruin us with a video? I don't need to ruin you, I replied. You've ruined yourselves. Then I stood up, walked to the center of the room, and placed a small USB drive on the table. Raghav stared at it like it was a bomb. What? What is that? Copies, I said. Of every recording. Pooja's voice trembled. With whom? I smiled slightly. That's the fun part. I raised one finger, one with my lawyer, another finger, one with a women's safety NGO, third finger, one scheduled to auto-send to the police. If anything happens to me or Aarohi, Kamala shrieked. Auto-send? You devil, you're trapping us. I leaned forward. No, Maji, you trapped yourselves. Raghav slammed his hand on the table. You won't get away with this. I stepped closer. So close, he had to look up at me. For 3 years, you hit a woman who never fought back. Today, you met the wrong woman. His jaw shook with rage and fear. So tell me, Raghav, I whispered. What do you want to do now? Fight? Threaten? Or finally? Listen, he hesitated. A long, heavy hesitation that revealed everything. His power was gone, cracked, shattered, and he knew it. What? What do you want from us? He asked quietly. There it was. The sentence Aarohi had waited 3 years to hear. I sat down again and folded my hands. Good, I said. Now we can begin. All 3 of them leaned forward, terrified. Begin what? Pooja squeaked. My eyes hardened. Your reckoning. Because fear had changed sides. Now it was time for the truth to bleed out. One confession at a time. Night fell heavy on the Thakur house. Not like a normal night, but like a curtain closing on a long, bloody play. I sat across from them. Raghav, Kamala, Pooja, each of them shaking, each of them calculating their next lie. But tonight, lies would not save them. Let's start, I said. Raghav scoffed, trying to regain control. You think we are scared of a little USB? I leaned forward. It's not the USB you should fear. It's what happens when the police watch it. When the NGO watches it. When the court watches it. Kamala flinched. Pooja whimpered. Raghav opened his mouth. But I raised a hand. Let's begin with you, I said, pointing at Kamala. She jerked back. Me? What did I do? Aarohi's dowry burns. The constant insults, the nights you locked her outside, the times you told Raghav to teach her a lesson. Kamala's face turned ash white. I never. It's recorded, I said. She froze. Pooja squeezed her dupatta. What about me? She whispered. I turned to her slowly. You were the blade they used. The one who dirtied the kitchen after she cleaned it. The one who hid her medicines. The one who lied to Raghav about her talking to men. The one who pushed her near the stove. Pooja shook her head wildly. It was an accident. That sentence, I said calmly, is on video. Right after you did it. Her face drained of color. Then I turned to Raghav. He swallowed. You hit her, I said. You choked her. You locked her in the bathroom. You slapped her daughter. You tracked her phone. You threatened to throw her out. You told her no one would believe her. He tried. You what? I asked. You were angry. You were stressed. You were teaching her? His throat tightened. You're done, Raghav. He glared at me. What do you want? Money. Apology? Forgiveness? I shook my head. No, I want consequences. Silence hit the room like thunder. For 3 years, I continued, Aarohi lived like a prisoner. Starting tonight, you will understand what that feels like. They stared at me, horrified. I stood up. From now until the police arrive in the morning, I said, you will not raise your voice. You will not touch me. You will not leave this house. You will sit there and wait. Raghav leapt up. You called the police? I smiled. No, they called me. Then I pulled out my phone and showed him. 10 missed calls. Women's Safety Cell. 3 new messages. Inspector R. Datta. Raghav gasped. Kamala collapsed into the sofa. Pooja burst into tears. And I said the words Aarohi had deserved to hear for 3 years. Your time is up? It was 4:42 a.m. when the house finally cracked. A sound broke the suffocating silence. Not a scream, not a threat, but the deep, heavy knock of authority. Thud, thud, thud. The kind of knock that makes every guilty heart stop beating. Raghav's head snapped up. Kamala gasped. Pooja clutched her dupatta so tight her knuckles turned white. I stood perfectly still. The knock came again. Police! Open the door! Raghav looked at me like a trapped animal. You actually called them. I cut him off. I told you. I didn't have to call anyone. They called me. They've been tracking this house ever since I sent the initial evidence. Another knock. Stronger. Kamala panicked. Neha beta, listen, we can talk. We can fix this. Don't ruin us. You ruined yourselves, I said quietly. Pooja crawled toward me, literally crawled. Didi, please don't let them take us. I'll do anything, I swear. I'll apologize. I'll touch your feet if you want. I stepped back. I don't need your feet. I need your accountability. The knocks became a fist pounding. Raghav finally broke. He ran to the door. But before he could open it, I stepped in front of him. His body froze. Even at his most desperate, he didn't dare touch me. I unlocked the door, and the moment it opened, the world changed. 3 officers stepped inside. One of them, Inspector Rekha Datta, the woman who had called me earlier, looked straight at me. Miss Sharma? I nodded. She turned to the criminals behind me. Raghav Thakur? He swallowed. Yes, Kamala Devi. She trembled. G. Pooja Thakur. She burst into tears. Inspector Datta's voice turned cold. You're all coming with us. The room erupted. No, please. You don't understand. She's lying. We didn't do anything. But the officers didn't flinch. They already knew the truth. I handed Inspector Datta a small envelope. Inside is the master drive. Every video, every threatening text, every injury report, everything. Raghav lunged forward. You bitch! But 2 officers grabbed him before he could even complete the word. Inspector Datta glared at him. Use that word again and I'll add charges. Kamala tried one last desperate attempt. Madam, she is destroying a family. No, the inspector said sharply. You destroyed a woman. We're here to stop you from destroying her child too. The handcuffs clicked. 1 pair for Raghav, 1 for Kamala, 1 for Pooja. They screamed, begged, cursed, pleaded. But Not one person in that house, not one wall, not one god in the temple shelf answered them. The officers dragged them to the door. Before stepping out, Inspector Datta turned to me. "Your sister is safe now," she said softly. And for the first time in 3 days, I felt my chest loosen. The house that once swallowed Aarohi whole finally spat out its monsters. When the police jeep drove away, sirens echoing through Bhimtal's quiet streets, I whispered to myself, "It's over." But deep down, I knew this was not the end. This was the beginning of Aarohi's real life.